We're going to take some time to read the story Tree of Reformation by O. Henry. And then we're going to find out about symbolisms. Okay, a retrieve reformations, O. Henry. A guard came to prison shoe shop. To the prison shoe shop where Jimmy Valentine was absurdly stitching uppers and escorted him to the front office. There, the warden handed Jimmy his pardon, which had been signed in the morning by the governor. Jimmy took it in a tired kind of way. He had served nearly 10 months of 4-year sentences. He had expected to stay only about 3 months at the longest. The man with a many friend on the outside, Jimmy Valentine, had his received in the store. It is hardly worthwhile to cut his hair. Now, Valentine, said the warden, you'll go out in the morning, brace up, and make a man of yourself. You're not a bad fellow at heart. Stop cracking safe and live straight. Me? Said Jimmy in surprise. Why, I never cracked a safe in my life. Oh, no, laughed the warden. Of course not. Let's see. Now, how was it you happened to set up the Springfield job? Was it because you wouldn't prove an alibi for fear promising it somebody in extremely high-toned society? Or was it simply cause of an mean old Geordie that had it in for you? It's always one or the other with you in symptoms. Me? Said Jimmy, still blankly virtuous. Why, warden, I never was in Springfield in my life. Take him back, Colin, said the warden, and fix him with outgoing clothes, and lock him at 7 in the morning, and let him to the bullpen. Better think over my advice, Valentine. At 7:15 on the next morning, Jimmy stood in the warden's outer office. He had a suit of efficiently fitting, ready-made clothes and a pair of the stiff, squeaky shoes the state furnishes to discharge compulsory gas. The clerk handed him a railroad ticket and a $5 bill, with which the law expected him to rehabilitate himself in good citizenship and prosperity. The warden gave him a cigarette and shook hands. Valentine 9762 was crawling on the books, pardoned by governor, and Mr. James Valentine walked out in the sunshine. Disregarding the song of the bird, the waving green trees, and the smell of flowers, Jimmy headed straight for a restaurant. There he tasted his first sweet joy of liberty in shape of boiled chicken and a bottle of white wine, followed by a cigar, a great better than the one the warden had given, from where he proceeded leisurely to the depot. He tossed a quarter in the hat of a blind man sitting by the door, and boarded his train. 3 hours set him down a little town near the state line. He went to the cafe of one Mike Dolan and shook hands with Mike, who was alone behind the bar. Sorry you couldn't make it sooner, Jimmy, my boy, said Mike, but we had the protest from Springfield to buck against, and the governor nearly balked. Feeling all right? Fine, said Jimmy. Got my keys. He got his keys and went upstairs, unlocking the door of the room at the rear. Everything was just as he had left. There on the floor was still Ben Price's collar button that had been torn from the eminent detective shirt band when they overpowered Jimmy to arrest him. Pulling out from the wall a folding bed, Jimmy slid back a panel on the wall and dragged out a dust-covered suitcase. He opened this and gazed fondly at the finest set of burglar tools in the East. It was a complete set, made of specially tempered steel, with design drills, punches, sprays, and bits, Jimmy's clamps and augers, with 2 or 3 novelties invented by Jimmy himself, in which he took pride. Over $900 did cost him to have made at a place where they made such things for the professions. In half an hour, Jimmy went downstairs and through the cafe. He was now dressed in tasteful and well-fitting clothes, and carried his dusted, clean suitcase in his hand. Got anything on? Asked Mike Dolan gently. Me? Said Jimmy in a puzzled tone. I don't understand. I'm representing the New York Alligator Short Snap Biscuit Cracker and Frazzle Wheat Company. Statement delighted Mike at such extent that Jimmy had to take a seltzer, and milk on the spot. He never touched hard drink. A week after the release of Valentine 9762, there's a neat job safe burglary done in Richmond, Indiana. With no clue to the offer, scanned $800 was all that was secure. 2 weeks after that patent-improved burglar-proof safe at Logan Sport was open like a cheese to the tune of $1,500. Currency, securities, and silver untouched. That began to interest the rock catcher. Then an old-fashioned bank safe in Jefferson City became active and threw out of its crater an eruption of banknote amounting to $5,000. The losses were now high enough to make the matter up into Ben Price's class of work. The comparing note a remarkable similarity in the methods of burglaries was noticed. Ben Price investigated the scenes of robberies and was heard remark, "That's Danny Jim Valentine autograph. You resume business. Look at that combination knob. Jerk out as easy as blowing up a radish in wet weather. You're the only clam that can do it. And look how clean this tumbler will punch out. Jimmy never has to drill but one hole." Yes, I guess I want Mr. Valentine. He'll do his bit next time without any short or clumsy foolishness. Ben Price knew Jimmy habits. He had learned them while working on the Springfield case. Long jump, quick getaway, no confidence, and a taste for good society. These way had helped Mr. Valentine to become noted as a successful daughter of retributions. He was given out to Ben Price to take up the trail of elusive crackmen. The other people with the burglar-proof safe felt more at ease. One afternoon, Jimmy Valentine and his suitcase climbed out of the mail hack in Elmore, a little town 5 miles down road in the back-jack country of Atkinson. Jimmy, looking like an athletic young senior just home from college, went down the board sidewalk toward the hotel. A young lady crossed the street, passed him in the corner, and entered a door over which was signed the Elmore Bank. Jimmy Valentine looked at her eyes, forgot what he was, and became another man. She lowered her eyes and colored slightly. Young men of Jimmy's style and look were scarce in Elmore. Jimmy colored boy that was loafing on the subway bank as if he were one of the stockholders, and began to ask him questions about the town, feeding him dimes at intervals. By and by, the young lady came out and, looking royally unconscious of the young man with a suitcase, and went her way. "Isn't the young lady Polly Simpson?" asked Jimmy with a special gulps. "Nah. She's Annabelle Adams. Her pa owned this bank. Why'd you come to Elmore for? Is that a gold watch chain? I'm gonna get a bulldog. Got any more dimes?" Jimmy went to the plain old hotel, registered as Ralph D. Spencer, and engaged a room. He leaned on the desk and declared his platform to the clerk. He said he had come in Elmore for a location to go into business. That was a shoe business now in the town. He had fought a shoe business. Was there an opening? The clerk was impressed by the fat-clothed man of Jimmy. He himself was something of a pattern of fashion to the thinly gilded youth of Elmore. He now perceived his shortcoming while trying to figure out Jimmy's manner of tying his foreign hand. He cordially gave information. Yes, there ought to be a good opening in the shoe line. There was an exclusive store in the places. The dry good and general store handled them. Business in online was fairly good. Hope Mr. Spencer would decide to locate in Elmore. He would find a pleasant town to live in, and the people very sociable. Mr. Spencer thought he would come over to town a few days and look over the situation. No, the clerk needn't call the boy. He wouldn't carry up his suitcase himself. It was rather heavy. Mr. Ralph Spencer, the phoenix that arose from Jimmy Valentine, ashes left by the flame of a sudden and alternative attack of love, remained in Elmore and prospered. He opened a shoe store and secured a good run of trade. Socially, he was also a success and made many friends, and he accomplished the wish of his heart. He met Miss Annabelle Adams and became more and more captivated by her charm. At the end of the year, the situation with Mr. Ralph Spencer was this. He had won the respect of the community, the shoe store was flourishing, and he and Annabelle were to be engaged, married in 2 weeks. Mr. Adam, the typical plodding country banker, approved of Spencer. Annabel's pride in him almost equaled her affection. He was as much at home in the family of Mr. Adam, of that Annabel married sister, as if he were already a member. One day, Jimmy sat down in his room and wrote this letter, which he mailed to the safe address in one of his old friends in St. Louis. I want you to be at Sol Livian's place in Little Rock next Wednesday night at 9 o'clock. I want you to wind up some little matter for me, and also I want to take your present of my kid of tour. I know you'd be glad to get them. You couldn't duplicate a lot for $1,000. Say, Billy, I've quit the old business. A year ago, I've got a nice store. I'm making an honest living, and I'm going to marry the finest girl on earth 2 weeks from now. It's the only life, Billy, the straight one. I wouldn't touch a dollar of another man's money now for a million. After I get married, I'm going to sell and go out west, where there won't be much danger of having old scores brought up against me. I tell you, Billy, she's an angel. She believed in me, and I wouldn't do another crooked thing in the whole world. Be sure to be at Sully, for I must see you. I'm bringing along the tour with me. Your old friend, Jimmy. On the Monday night after Jimmy wrote this letter, Ben Price jogged unobstructedly in Elmore in a livery buggy. He lounged from about town in his quiet way until he found out that he wanted to know. The drugstore across the street from Spencer's shoe store. He got a look at Ross D. Spencer. Going to marry the banker daughter, are you, Jimmy? Said Ben himself softly. Well, I don't know. The next morning, Jimmy took breakfast at the Adams. He was going a little rough the day to order his wedding suit and buy something nice for Annabelle. That would be the first time he had left town since he came to Elmore. It had been more than a year now since his last professional job, and he thought he could safely venture out. After breakfast, quite a family party went downtown together. Mr. Adam, Annabelle, Jimmy, and Annabelle's married sister. And Annabelle married sister. With her two little girls, aged 5 and 9. They came by the hotel where Jimmy still boarded, and he ran up to his room and brought along a suitcase. Then they went to the bank where there stood Jimmy's horse and buggy, and Dolph Gibson was going to drive him over the railroad station. All it inside the high carved oak railing in the banking room. Jimmy included, for Mr. Adam, future son-in-law, was welcome anywhere. The clerk were pleased to be greeted by the good-looking, agreeable young man who was going to marry Miss Annabelle. Jimmy set his suitcase down. Annabelle, whose heart was bubbling with happiness and life, yelled, "Put on Jimmy's hat and pick up the suitcase. Wouldn't I make a nice drummer?" said Annabelle. "My, Ralph, how heavy it is. I feel like a full of gold bricks. I'll have a nickel-plated shoehorn in there," said Jimmy coolly. "Then I'm going to return. That would save express charge by taking them up. I'm getting awfully economical." The Elmore Bank had just put in a new safe and vault. Mr. Adam was very proud of it. It insisted on an inspection for everyone. The vault was a small one, but it had a new patent door. It fastened with 3 solid steel, bolt through symmetrically with a single hand, and had a time lock. Mr. Adam beamingly explained its working to Mr. Spencer, who showed courteous but not too intelligent interest. The two children, May and Agatha, were delighted by the shining metal and funny clock and knobs. While they were thus engaged, Ben Price sauntered in and leaned on his elbow, looking casually inside between the railing. He told the teller that he didn't want anything. He's just waiting for a man he knew. Suddenly, there was a scream or two from the woman, and a commotion, and a perceived for the elders. May, the 9-year-old girl in a spirit of play, had shut Agatha in the vault. She then shut the bolt and turned the knob of combination as she had seen Mr. Adam do. The old banker sprang the handle and took it at the moment. "The door can't be opened," he groaned. "The clock hasn't been wound, nor the combination set." Agatha's mother screamed again hysterically. "Hush," said Mr. Adam, raising his trembling hand. "I'll be quiet for a moment. Agatha," he called as loudly as he could, "listen to me." During the following silence, they could just hear the faint sound of a child wildly shrieking in the dark vault in a panic of terror. "My precious darling," wailed the mother, "she will die of fright. Open the door. Oh, break it open. Can't you men do something?" "There isn't a man nearer than the little rock who can open that door," said Mr. Adam in a shaky voice. My God, Spencer, what shall we do? That child, she can't stand in there long. That there isn't enough air, and besides, she'll go into convulsions from fright. Agatha, mother, frantic now, beat the doors, followed with her hand. Somebody wildly suggests dynamite. Annabelle turned to Jimmy, her large eye full of anguish, but not yet despairing. To a woman, nothing seemed quite impossible to the power of man she worshipped. Can't you do something, Rolf? Try, won't you? He looked at her with a queer, soft smile at his lip, and his keen Annabelle, he said, give me the rose you're wearing, will you? Hard of believing that she had heard him right. She had pinned the bud from the bosom of her dress, placed it in his hand. Jimmy stuffed it in his vest pocket, threw off his coat, and pulled up his shirt sleeve. With that act, Ralph D. Spencer passed away, and Jimmy Valentine took his place. Get away from the door, all of you, he commanded shortly. He set his suitcase on the table and opened it out flat. From that time on, he seemed to be unconscious of the presence of anyone else. He laid out shining, queer implements swiftly and orderly, whistling softly to himself, as he always did when at work. In a deep silence and immovable, the other watched him as if under a spell. In a minute, Jimmy Pet Drill was fitting smoothly in his steel door. In 10 minutes, breaking his own burglars record, he threw back the bolt and opened the door. Agatha almost collapsed, but safe was gathered in her mother's arm. Jimmy Valentine put on his coat and walked outside the railing toward the front door. As he went, he thought he had heard a faraway voice that he once knew call Rolf, but he never hesitated at the big door. But big man stood somewhat in his way. Hello, Ben, said Jimmy, still with a strange smile. Got around last, have you? Well, let's go. I don't know what makes much difference now. And then Ben Price act rather strange. Guess you've mistaken, Mr. Spencer. Don't believe I recognize you. Your buggy waiting for you, ain't it? Well, that's just the end of the story. We're gonna talk about symbolism. Now, symbolisms occur when an author uses an object, person, places, or experiments to stand for or represent something more than it actually is. So why do we use symbol? Remember how picture and graphics sometimes do a better job explaining your topic than a word? The same can be said of symbol. Symbol add depth, meaning, and interest to writing by encouraging a reader to slow down and think about all the significant quality that a symbol represents. Now, Ralph D. Spencer, or Jimmy Valentine, is a safe cracker, and he has a friendly style that appeals to us as a reader and to the people who know him in story. When he attempts to start his life over as shoe store owner, and then he adopted the name Ralph D. Spencer, which is a more formal name that symbolizes new life, by referring to Ralph as a phoenix that rises from the ashes that were Jimmy Valentine. O. Henry is comparing to the 500-year-old legend of a bird that died and was reborn from its own ash. So by using a formal name that includes a middle initial in comparison to its informal name, Jimmy, who symbolized the more formal, respectable, reformed life, he went to lead as the husband of Annabelle Adams. Now, just before Jimmy decided to break in the safe to save the girl at the end of the story, you realize that he asked for a rose from his future wife, Annabelle, and he placed it in his shirt pocket. But why do we do this? Well, O. Henry intended as a symbol of the love between Jimmy and Annabelle, because you see, Jimmy knew that when he saved that child in, he have to use his tool, and then everybody gonna see that he's actually a burglar, and then he's gonna go back in jail. And the love that he gave to Annabelle is real. So he asked for a rose before he go back to prison. A rose, as you see, is often used as a symbol of love because of its red color and because flowers are often given to the loved one as a gift. Now, since Jimmy's worried that exposing himself as a bank robber will end the relationship, he takes the rose from her as a symbol of the relationship so that he can remember when he's in prison, or if he doesn't end up in prison, maybe Annabelle will, don't like him anymore. So that's it. Now, often when authors include an object that seems out of place in a story, there is symbolic meaning behind it. So, you see, when Jimmy decided to open the bank up. He should have opened it right away, but he did not. He just asked his future wife for a rose before that, and that just fell out of place. It just fell out of place in the story. So that's where the symbolic meaning behind it mean. So this is the end of our clips. Thank you for coming and have a great day.